So if there's a place you've always wanted to go to, say it's Morocco, you have that feeling that going to Morocco would spark something in you. You just seen a few images that are beautiful and it excites you and you want to go. So then you maybe ask a few friends, a few acquaintances about Morocco. Maybe they just share their bad experiences in Morocco. Everyone interprets a location and experience in their own way. And by letting your decision be affected by other people's experiences is only going to hold you back. If you in 10 years meet someone and they have had those memories in Morocco, and you said, oh, I've always wanted to go to Morocco, and then they ask, well, why haven't you? Is the reason, well, I was kind of, my friend said I shouldn't go, and so I just decided not to go. That doesn't sound like you're living your life for you. You're living your life through the decisions that other people, or the mistakes that other people made. Right? If you're sitting on the fence trying to make decisions based on other people's ideas and recommendation, you're always going to be there, not knowing what the next step is after. Taking a recommendation based on someone else's expertise, and it's not coming from you, they're not there when you're stuck in like level 3. That's when you have to know how to get above and through the bump. And living in a state of constant fear, it's going to affect your ability to listen to your intuition. We are being told that finishing something is where you get the gold medal. But if that comes at the expense of not listening to your true self, if it means that you can't look yourself in the mirror and be happy about the life choices that you've made, if you're living vicariously through other people's lives on the internet, wishing that you had the courage to do that, I want to replace the fear that you have to live the best life possible with optimistic outlook on life, with a sense of I have a vision of where I could see myself, even though you don't know the actual roadmap, knowing what you want. And if you don't know, expose yourself to thoughts, to ideas, to images that could potentially spark something. I love humans, I love connecting with people, I love culture, and knowing and understanding that the world is bigger than just the town that I live in. And the more exposure I get to other ways of living, the more my mind is blown, the more I know that there is opportunity. Because there's something within the system where we are being taught that this is the way it is and this is how it's supposed to be. And the more we are creating the limitations for ourselves, this is the only way you're going to pass a test. This is the only way you're going to succeed in life if you follow this path. And I always challenge that there is multiple ways you can come to your happy self. But how many of us are asking ourselves, is this making me happy? But then we tell ourselves, life isn't supposed to be easy. Life is supposed to be difficult. And then we might tell ourselves, that is just not reality. But those people who tend to give themselves the limited opportunities and not open their minds to possibilities, I tend to frown on other people who are doing well for themselves or are never actually able to give themselves the permission to explore anything. The best way to get to the truth of who you are is by experimenting and trying different things. The decisions that you end up making, you'll know. In order to be ready for the decisions that are going to truly impact your future, The certainty comes from experience, and the experience comes from trial and error, continuously experiencing things, good, bad, ugly, throwing yourself out there. I traveled solo by myself after graduating, but I also moved from Germany at the age of 15 to London by myself. To some people that is considered brave, but to me that was a calling. It was an easy decision. More than a feeling, it was a pull, and that pull becomes so strong and so intense that there's just not space for worries, for procrastination, for anything else but that just strong pull towards taking that action. If your longing is to visit Morocco, but you're not sure if you should because you've heard some negative travel experiences, we are meant to not always have these flashy experiences, because we can learn from any experience, bad and good. But more importantly, we make better decisions from the more exposure we have to bad and good. And be the driver of my life instead of the passenger. Because whether or not you are going to take control and ownership of your life or not, time will pass, opportunities will pass, and sometimes we're not lucky enough to have another great opportunity come our way. Listening to intuition doesn't mean you're sitting back. You know what makes you feel great. You do more of the things that make you feel great, and there are clues in those feelings, and you ask yourself more questions and you tap into more of that. And being open-minded, trying different things out, because when you try new things out, you're able to have more opinions, and those opinions are going to give you a stronger reason to go for something over something else. Because it's easy to want to feel good via another person's praise or validations, but we need to validate ourselves. At the end of the day, we need to give ourselves the proud pat on the shoulder. Well done me for taking a step towards the right direction. That first step isn't going to be the end all be all, we all know that, but taking that first step is a stepping stone to your future self. For me, taking that one-way ticket abroad when I was 23 led me to meeting my husband and led me to having kids and living the life I have now. But the person I had to become before I was ready for marriage and commitment was starting at least 7 years before that. And I see the same right now. As I'm almost turning 33, I don't just think about me as a 33-year-old, I'm thinking, who's the woman I want to be at 40? And a lot of us just think, oh, that's so far away in the distance. But we are currently creating our future self. Many of the best decisions I have made personally were made on the feeling of, I just know it's a magnetic pull towards going that way. And the intuition on the knowing, I doubled down on that, and it really eliminates fear. To me, fear and making a decision don't really go hand in hand. I believe we can brainwash ourselves to thinking and believing that we are the best, we can achieve our best outcome, and the ultimate confidence within comes from our past experience and how we are operating ourselves and the challenges that we are willing to take on. That gut feeling, that knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at, being able to distinguish those feelings, making sense of feelings when it comes to emotional intelligence, that is its own practice by itself. So I always recommend making sense of your emotions and your feelings and understanding what a specific feeling is trying to tell you. And honoring that feeling, because when we are honoring that feeling, we're going to come from a place of compassion and giving ourselves the time of day to make sense of these. If we're suppressing those emotions and not giving it the attention and just keeping ourselves busy without giving ourselves the time to process these thoughts and feelings, we're less likely to make any decisions from our own intuition. Or we are deciding not to take any action towards the things that might scare us a little bit. There's a complete difference between the feeling of fear and doubt to the intuition and feeling that something is scaring you a little bit in a way that has this butterfly feeling, where you know that this will challenge you, but that challenge will come with so many benefits. Embracing any feelings that has that tendency to come present itself with butterfly feeling. Knowing that, for example, public speaking with what you do is going to greatly benefit your career, but it's creating that butterfly feeling. But you have pictured yourself in front of hundreds, thousands of people. You're preparing yourself to say yes when the opportunity arises. Because when you're visualizing yourself doing something that might be a little bit uncomfortable, and the more you visualize yourself doing that, your brain and your body is going to be fed up because it's just not enough. You want to have more data points. You want to actually turn this visual that you have in your mind into the reality. That's kind of how I see it. We look at some people and go, you seem to just have everything figured out, or you seem to just really know what you're doing. I know that there is a formula behind that. It isn't that they are superior than me. I just see that they have taken certain steps to get to that point. And there were opportunities and things that have presented themselves slowly and slowly over time. But they have decided that a yes is going to greater benefit them than just say no and not have that experience. In order for us to actually be able to be way more in tune with our instincts and make the decisions we need for ourselves, we have to have more knowledge, more wisdom, more internal data points. When I say data points, I'm not talking about looking it up of the pros and cons. Yeah, sometimes it is beneficial to be looking at pros and cons. But if something isn't greatly going to hurt you, let's, for example, say you're going to the supermarket, you always gravitate and pick the same coffee. There's no hurt in trying a different brand out. Because as soon as we're trying something new, we are paying closer attention. How does this taste different? How does this make me feel different? Why did I pick this brand today over this one? Is it the branding? So once we take a different decision that isn't completely changing and isn't completely going to crush us, because it's just coffee at the end of the day, from that experience, we have learned more. And it also comes down to, how do you know what you are good at? How can you differentiate yourself from your peers? The more you think about if you are undetectable, if you are closer to the similarity of your friends or the peers in your group, that means that you're potentially you're a subject to your environment. Which we do in society, we are adapting to our environment. But by adapting to our environment, if we're not used to changing environments, we become so used to this one way of living, going to the same school, having similar types of rules, having similar ways of responding to a question. How are you? I'm fine. How was school? Okay. So this pattern becomes habitual and it just turns into this automatic autopilot way of living. So then when we're walking around the road or around parks, we might not pick up on things when we're so stuck in this one way of living. So what I have done and am doing with my own kids, I'm exposing them to lots of different ways of living. I'm not pushing one agenda to them. There are multiple languages, there are multiple ways of living. They know that eating with a fork and knife and having table manners is important. But they also know that in Japan they use chopsticks, in India they eat with their hands. And there's different customs and rules around the world. So I'm opening their minds to an array of different ways of living. Meaning there is always opportunity. There's not necessarily one route for you. And how does that relate back to intuition? If we give ourselves the opportunity and reasons to believe that there's more out there for us and there's more prosperity for us than having ourselves be cooped up in a cup where we don't feel like we can grow outside this classroom, outside of our peer groups, and it's holding us in a place where we are maybe scared to shine brighter and figure out ourselves and our desires and wantings. Now you might ask yourself, how do I get to the point of learning more about myself? And how do I adopt an open mind and know the right from wrong? How do I know that this is the person I'm meant to be with? How do I know that this is the course that I'm supposed to study? How do I know where to live in this world? Our life is made up with so many days, so many opportunities, and so many people and connections and adventures that we can experience. And it's up to us to seek out those opportunities, to understand ourselves better, and to make decisions for ourselves based on the experiences that we have. Do you notice when you haven't picked up your hobby in a while, and then that one day your friend invites you to come along to that painting class and you end up going, and that painting class just shifts your mood and it just unlocks this passion within you again? And when you have that emotion and that feeling of passion and excitement, it's great to find that emotion and unlock it and see what you can do with it from that space. There is so many emotions and feelings that we're experiencing, and the more we can put ourselves out there to feeling uplifted and doing things that make us feel proud, we can continue doing more of the things that are working for us. And the more we are on that trajectory, we know what is right for us. So then that means you're less likely to copy other people, to be someone who needs to fit in, to feel loved. You are good enough who you are and where you are going.